Hello and welcome to the Race to Speak Up podcast. I'm your host, Devin Moore. Today's guest is Brian Mhando. Brian is a senior at Regis High School in New York City. In the wake of America's racial reckoning in the summer of 2020, Brian founded his school's Black Student Union. While engaging in racial dialogue within the club, Regis Black and Latino students, as well as alumni, attempted to raise awareness throughout the entire school community by detailing their racial experiences on an Instagram page titled Black at Regis. Brian initiated an interview project in hope of creating intergenerational dialogue between students and teachers. Brian also created a debate curriculum for young kids via the Reach program, a year-round enrichment program that helps students of color and lower-income families gain admission to private schools. Brian hopes to inspire fellow speech and debate kids from Regis to continue this service once he passes on the torch when he graduates. I actually met Brian at the Princeton Prize in Race Relations ceremony in Manhattan, and it was a fantastic evening. To be amongst outstanding honorees was so inspiring. And of course, Brian won the grand prize for it. And he will also be attending Princeton University. So thank you for joining us today, Brian. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so again, congratulations on being the grand prize winner for Princeton Prize in Race Relations. It is very much a big honor. Now, let's talk about you being the president of Regis High School's Black Student Union. You founded it. Why don't you tell us more about it?
Yeah. So this was the end of sophomore year, after, George Floyd incidents and all that. Um, there's a lot of there was a tough racial climate in my school. I guess within the alumni side of things and, personally with students. First on a student side, there were some students in my school who didn't really handle the topic of race well. By that I mean, they're really insensitive. Some kids sent memes that they thought were funny, but in their own sense they were mildly racist. And I didn't like how that affected me and how they responded to my pain because they didn't really regard, I guess, the George Floyd incident as something that serious. And in terms of like the alumni side of things, there were a bunch of alumni who started to speak out about the racism they experienced at Regis. And I felt empowered by, I guess, both side of things to start a Black student union where students could really start not only talking about race at Regis, but taking action and being part of the change that was happening at Regis at that time.
Well, it's good that you're even able to start this conversation and start the Black Student Union. I understand how important it is to really bring up this topic of race and, diversity in schools and just your own experience as a Black person. So how do we even start this conversation of race?
It's a good question. Honestly, the way I like to start talking about race, especially in my school, is just talk about personal experiences. That's how I started talking about race with my teachers initially. You just talk about how you grew up knowing race and how you define race. And I guess that's the best way to start because you're able to, I guess, see someone's perspective, and that really helps you to, I guess, not only learn more about someone else's experiences with race, but also just teach others what you think about race and racism. So I usually just start talking about race by asking people how they've experienced race in their lives.
Yeah, it's good to have that open conversation, especially from someone who doesn't necessarily look like you. I think our differences are very beautiful, but we need to understand them. And by having an open conversation, it really allows for us to at least just, like I said, be open about it, listen to each other and try to understand each other, try to come to effective conclusion that, we're all really unified. We're all humans. If you really look down deep, we're all humans. We just happen to look different.
Yeah.
We just happen to be born in different areas, or our family, our ancestry are from different areas of the world. But I mean, I see beauty within that. I see unity within that. So as far as, George Floyd and all the other disgusting and horrid blatant acts of racism and murder that's happened, what's your response to that? How did that feel for you as a Black person? in this world? How did that feel for you when you saw these things?
Yeah. Honestly, when I, first, I guess really saw everything that was happening in the world, I was really like just desensitized to it. I was almost too used to it, which, you know, just made me feel really bad because when I started to realize how like serious everything was, I felt bad for not even like I mean just look at like what happened a couple of days ago in Buffalo. Um, Even then, I am shocked now, and I'm really saddened to about for like the 10 people that died, but I've just gotten so used to it, and that's just really hurts. Um, so I guess now, especially considering that there wasn't really any space or any space outside of like a few clubs to really talk about racial issues, um, I felt like having a place designated to talk about black things or Latino things at Regis and outside of Regis was really important and a key thing to have. So yeah.
This that honestly kind of reminds me of something. I want to ask you this. So, have you ever found yourself almost kind of just explaining almost like all of Black history to a white person or someone that's not of the Black race?
Yeah, more times than I would like to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's your experience with that?
Again, like because I've gone to. I mean, since I've gone to I guess a PWI for 4 years, I've just gotten used to it, and I don't like that I've gotten used to that. I just wish there was more time spent talking about you know not just even current events, just Black lives in general. And this isn't just a problem like at Regis. This is like a problem like school wide, like in every single school, public, private. There's just not enough, historical time spent on Black issues. There's not enough time spent talking about the Black experience, and I feel like that's a big part that's missed. And unfortunately, it's put upon us Black people to really talk about that. And it's something that you just get used to, and I've just had to get used to it too.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Especially like at my old school, there was a lot of like, and I was way younger, so like I almost was like I kind of grew up in that like predominantly white school, so I was kind of just naturally used to the racism, but I didn't know it was racist. Well, it was really like microaggression, which is still a form of racism, but I didn't know that it was that until like I'm in the now, I'm in the modern day, I'm 18, like I wait. I learn a lot more from people and I understand a lot more. So I'm like, have you ever found yourself almost having a harder time really embracing being Black in your culture where you came from?
Hmm. I feel like yeah, there have been some times. I guess culturally, I'm from Tanzania or well, Tanzania. I was born in America, but I really love my Tanzanian heritage, and there are times where I wear something that's from Tanzania, and I get weird looks or because it's not something that you see or it's not something that's American, and that I guess leave me embarrassed or left me embarrassed, initially when I was a bit younger. And for that reason, I really never embrace my Tanzanian side. I never embrace my Tanzanian food. Like that's an example as well. Like whenever my mom cooked me something from Tanzania and, packed me lunch for, school, I would always be afraid to bring it. And this isn't an experience that like me myself am exclusive to. Like I know there are a lot of, people from other cultures that have the same experience. Um, but I never truly realized how much I hid my Tanzanian heritage, until I actually went to Tanzania last year. Um, and I kind of feel bad for that. I feel like I missed out on a lot of opportunities to share my culture with my closest friends solely because I was afraid to do that.
That's actually really interesting because that reminds me of a book. It's like a children's book. It's called or it is a children's book. It's called Some Black Girls Don't Sit Together in the Cafeteria. It's by Dr. Janet Abakoya. And so essentially in that book, it's dealing with this is so like a little bit off topic, but it's still on the topic. So like it's dealing with this black girl from Africa who came to America just for education purposes. And she is getting bullied for her African roots. You know, her mom made her lunch that she loved to eat and would bring to school, but the other students would say like, "Ew, she's eating doo doo," or "Ew, she's eating, such and such and such," which is completely annoying and rude and just like, lack of knowledge. It's lack of knowledge. And, we need to be open to these things in order to understand that. We shouldn't necessarily be getting weird looks when you're trying to embrace your culture. I know with me, just like I've had some trouble when I was younger because of me going to that predominantly white school. I've had hard time really trying to embrace myself as a black person. But once I started going to my new school, which is more diverse, um, I was really able to like slowly grow more into myself. Like a part of that was just kind of like growing out my hair and then like also, realizing how beautiful our melanin skin is, the different shades, the different types, where you're from. I did ancestry.com. I found out I'm actually Nigerian, so that's pretty cool. And so like, a bunch of stuff like that. So I'm glad to hear that, we're really able to work towards embracing yourself just as a black person. But I understand that it is really hard in this society.
No, on that same note of hair, I never used to have dreads until last year. Yeah, I started. I guess that was my change to starting to embrace my blackness. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely get it. I completely get it. And so another thing that you're doing to work towards creating that change is your debate curriculum. So why don't you tell us about your debate curriculum?
Yeah. So this was something that I thought of, I guess, during the end of my junior year of high school. It was after a debate tournament. I realized that aside from, I guess, there were a few kids from, because the point of the, I guess, when I started the debate program, I started it based on off the Reach program, which was a 3-year program that helped marginalized students gain admission into elite private schools. And I realized, because my debate partner at that time, and me, we were both Reach graduates, and we both, I guess, we both realized that aside from us and like a few other kids, there weren't many Reach students who really tried debate at Reach. We didn't know why, but my inclination, based on my personal experience, was that kids were intimidated. I know as a freshman, I was very intimidated of debate at Regis. That was partially because there were a lot of middle schoolers who did debate from other schools who came into Regis, and that in itself was terrifying because I didn't even know how to speak publicly. So I thought it would be worthwhile to actually start a debate curriculum. So I spoke to one of the president of Regis' debate team at that time. I spoke to him, and over the spring we drafted a debate curriculum to work with over the summer during the Reach summer year. So that was, at first we were only teaching fourth years, which are incoming freshmen at all those private high schools, and it went really, really well. Some of the students who did debate that summer actually did debate at Regis, and I speak to them all the time. It's amazing to see more Reach faces at my debate team. Yeah, and I guess now, in terms of like how it's going now, we're now having a spring curriculum and a summer curriculum. So I'm glad to actually see the program expand, the curriculum expand, and I hope it continues even when I leave. I already have my replacement teacher. Although I wasn't only teaching by myself. That was the beauty of the program. I heavily relied on other Regis debaters and speech guys to help me, and that's why I loved it, because it really bridged that gap between Reach students and Regis kids.
That's really cool. So, like, why don't you tell us about some of the students that you worked with? Because, like, I know you got a lot going on with just within just the debate curriculum that I see is now even growing too. So tell us about some of the students. Are there any like very interesting or like super memorable times that you've had with them?
Yeah, no, even like last week, I remember one of my not last week, like a couple of weeks ago, because yeah, 3 weeks ago or some sort of that. I remember one of my friends. He does speech at Regis. Uh, I was able to trust him with half of the kids. There were 8 kids, or not 8 kids, 16 kids. And I was just watching him from the window, and the way he was speaking with all the other kids, it wasn't the fact that he was teaching them public speaking. It was just the fact that he was having a good time. It wasn't just a teaching job. He was enjoying himself teaching kids public speaking. And then that's what I love about teaching others, and especially helping with teaching others with my friends. A lot of the kids who help me really love debate, and then they really love speaking. So if you pair that together with an actual teaching curriculum, you get a lot of interest. So a lot of times when I um, ask students or younger kids from Regis to help me with the program, there's a lot of interest, and I just love that. And a lot of kids just have fun. They don't even teach. It's not a chore. It's not something you do just for the sake of volunteering. It's something you do because you love to do it and you have fun doing
I really like that because you're able, I see you're very involved in encouraging others to speak up. So when you're at Princeton, what are you going to study? What's your major?
it. Currently, I guess I'm undecided, though. I really want to um regardless of what I end up majoring in, I really want to also major or minor in African American studies. I feel like it's important to really continue learning about race, even in college, and I feel like I won't be able to necessarily do that without actively seeking out those classes. I actually really loved my senior year at Regis solely because I actually had a few courses that touched upon race, and that was the first time that really happened. So I'm hoping to continue having courses like that at Princeton. So something with African American studies and maybe something else. Um, Hopefully, I plan to go to law school, or that's my initial dream. We'll see how that goes.
Ah, yeah, yeah, I can definitely relate to you as far as like, well, you're as far as like you being undecided, but still, dealing with like African American studies. That's kind of me with my minor, only because like, so my major, I want to do psychology, or at least as of right now, really want to do psychology and get more of a feel for mental health, learn about it. That's been my main thing that I've always like wanted to learn about, or at least especially when I first started Race to Speak of organization and working with other organizations that deal with people who have their own personal experiences with bullying and mental health or mental illness. So I'm like, I really am more interested in things like that as far as psychology. But with my minor, I'm like, I really want to get more, like, I want to get more of an education on African American studies and stuff like that. But I'm also like pre law, because I think I can definitely see myself going to law school to become a lawyer. And I also can see myself going to, med school or any other school I need to go to become possibly a psychiatrist, or I might just going be a psychologist, which is back to mental health. I don't know, like a bunch of stuff. So
No, but
yeah.
honestly, if I were you, I would do African American studies. I feel like there's more value in learning more about us and our culture and our history than there is in taking a pre-law class that that you'll learn that stuff in law school anyway. But that's just me. But like you have, yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Because honestly, for a while, I've been wanting to really learn more about, like, besides just trying to educate myself or have my parents educate myself or speaking to other amazing individuals who can even educate me. I want to go to school and learn that, whether it's just like one class at least. Like, I want to learn about these things. I want to learn about these things that I should have learned about when I was way younger going to school. That's what I want to learn about this. I want to get more of a feel for that. And so, but anyways, so what made you choose Princeton?
Honestly, kind of solely based on, or not solely based on, but like I really loved the African American curriculum, African American studies curriculum there. I my my I was primarily choosing between Princeton and Columbia, and I not solely, but mainly chose Princeton because of their amazing, wonderful African American Studies program. Also because Eddie Galad Jr. he teaches there, and I can't wait to take a class by him because I have his book. So, but yeah, not mainly because of that, but a lot of my reasoning of choosing Princeton was because they had a wonderful African American Studies program.
That's cool. And so let's kind of talk about the Princeton Prize and race relations, because that was a great night. You being the winner, me and the other amazing honorees being the recipients of the certificate of accomplishment. So what was that experience like for you?
Honestly, it was surreal. Not only because I didn't the more I heard from other students, especially students like you, the more surprised that I even won. You know, everyone who did work there was doing amazing things, and I was extremely humbled to be in front of such accomplished students like you and like the other winners that we saw at that night. So honestly, I can't say anything but good things about that night. It was amazing just to be there.
Oh my gosh, I really can't agree with you more. Just like, cause I'm also here, like, I was really way excited to like hear from you as the winner, cause I'm like, what's he doing? I was like, let me see what's Brian doing, cause I'm like, this is so cool. And he won, so let me hear what he's doing and let me get a feel for what he's doing, because I know I can always learn from someone else who's also, and then just the fact that you're like in my immediate community, like we can meet each other and like do things together, stuff like that, as far as like working towards creating a positive change. So I'm like, I really would love to hear from you. And then when I heard you speaking about the debate curriculum, and after you were thanking a lot of people, which is kind of funny and really good. I'm so glad that you highlighted everyone that's been a part of your journey. And so, like, just hearing you speak about the debate curriculum, the Black Student Union, all the things that you've been doing in order to teach others and educate others. And then also hearing from the other amazing honorees who, like, they're created, whether it be protests or whether it be, education dealing with, race, as far as like being Black or being Asian and all these different things. It was really cool to hear about it and like and it makes me think to myself, wow, there are other, well, I already knew this, that there's other people who are working towards creating that change, but I always want to meet them in real life. A lot of the people that I work with are kind of like, I met them, but they all like are in other states. So I'm very much happy, truly happy to have this opportunity to be working with them. But I want to meet up with someone,
Yeah,
I want to like be in that space with like feeling our youth empowerment.
yeah. No, I totally get what you mean. Actually, I was just wondering, not off topic, but can I speak a little bit about what I did with BSU specifically? Because I feel like that was also a big reason why I won the award. I don't know if I would be able to
Go
do it
ahead.
with just the debate curriculum.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Talk about it.
Yeah. So this interview project that I guess vaguely mentioned, I should have gone more in depth with it in my speech the other day, but I didn't. Anyway, so another thing that I guess I felt like was a huge issue at Regis was the fact that there wasn't any intergenerational dialogue. Um, a lot of teachers and students never really spoke about race, whether that was in the classroom or in a group setting. There were always like for example, in our assemblies about race. After those assemblies, teachers were just given a card with questions, and then they asked the questions, and then students would either not say a word, and teacher would not say a word, and it's just awkward silence, or one person would say something and then a teacher would move on to the next question. I felt like there wasn't enough meaningful dialogue about race at Regis, and I felt like that was something that needed to change. So in like November of junior year, I created a proposal to interview teachers in my school about race at Regis, and I gathered I feel like eight students initially, to be my interviewers, and we started interviewing teachers. I think around February. Um, I only expected to interview like two or three teachers, but then a lot of teachers started to or became interested in being interviewed. So we ended up interviewing like around half of the faculty members in my school. So not only teachers, so faculty and staff members, which was really amazing. I didn't first off I didn't expect teachers to respond to their emails about an interview about racism and race. But secondly, I wasn't expecting a lot of teachers to be that interested. Not only teachers, but students were interested too. So there was finally an environment where teachers and students were talking about race, and it was there were meaningful conversations too. I know there were a few conversations where teachers actually cried, and I know there were a few conversations where students actually cried. So it was great to actually have a place where students and teachers were able to be vulnerable with each other and actually learn and gain something out of it, rather than just an assembly with like the entire school, just having a simple presentation about race and racism. So I feel like that was the first time I really was able to get in touch with my teachers and faculty members and actually learn from them, as well as them learning from me. And I feel like that was really meaningful. I guess next steps in terms of that project was reaching out to schools. So I was able to reach out to like schools in the New York area, schools in LA, schools in Arizona, just to start so they could start having conversations within their school about race. Because I felt like the way we did it was really effective for Regis, and I just wanted to make sure other schools were aware that there was a way to actually have meaningful conversations about race, without it becoming very awkward, or without students just sitting there in silence. And I know for a fact that a lot of my teachers in my school were touched by this, solely because they told me that they were touched by this. So yeah, that was, I guess, a brief explanation of that project.
No, I'm so glad that you shared that, because it's just like it's really honestly like very cool to me that you were able, especially me being a podcaster, but the fact that you were even able to open up that space in a variety of different areas of like this world, just to have people be vulnerable within each other and have more empathy, like sympathy, compassion, like all these different things were in the air when that happened. And I truly appreciate that, because this is a very important topic that needs to, when we talk about it, we need to have the correct information. So for you to give that correct information and open up that space is so like important. It's so vital in a lot of our schools that may not be getting enough information about racism or about these different topics that you were able to really explain. And so, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey?
Honestly, just connecting with people, whether that's teachers or younger students. Um, I just love that I was able to, I guess, close a divide that was once there. And now like I'm able to have these meaningful conversations not only with my teachers and younger students, but like with a random person, because more I guess I'm more trained to do that, and I'm more prepared to have vulnerable and meaningful conversations. But and I'm also able to tap in from past experiences to see how to properly handle a situation. Um, so I guess a preparedness I have now, to actually have a conversation about race, and be just the connections that I was able to make with teachers and younger students. And I'm really excited to see how it impacts other people as well. So,
Thank you for sharing that. And so, what's something that you would like to leave with our viewers? What's one piece of advice that you'd like to leave with our viewers?
yeah. Um, Honestly, just start simple. The best piece of advice, you don't have to do anything grand. If you want to start, taking action within your community, or doing something, big, just start simple. I could personally say with my interview project, um, I only started by wanting to talk to one teacher, and that one teacher turned into 40. So if you want to do something big, just start simple, start small, and you could take it from there. And also don't be afraid, because you will hear no a lot of times, or you will hear some criticism, or you might think you might not have time to do something. But if you really care about something, you will have time and you will push past any no's or any hate or anything you get. So just be resilient, be persistent, and start simple and start small. I guess
That's
that's the
some,
best advice you get.
that's some really good advice. Thank you for sharing that. And so my last question for you is, how can people find you? So why don't you tell us your social media? And I know people can also find you at Princeton when your when the school year starts up. But tell us how people can find you on social media.
Yeah, my Instagram at is Brian Mhando, just my name. I don't know if you're able to. Yeah, you'll probably find a way to edit that in, but Brian Mhando. And you can also reach me out to me on Gmail, although I'll probably respond quicker on Instagram. My Instagram is also brianmhando@gmail.com. So, and just like Devin said, you guys will see me at Princeton.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today. And thank you to everyone who's listening. I hope to see you guys at future Race to Speak Up podcast. If you have any questions about the Race to Speak Up podcast, feel free to contact me at racetospeakup@gmail.com or on my social media at Race to Speak Up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure to head over to my website, www.racetospeakup.com. Also, join the Humanity Rising movement. We offer scholarships for students making a positive difference in the world through service. So head over to www.humanityrising.org for more information. And remember to ask yourself this one question: how do you race to speak up?